Hello there, friendly strangers on the internet. How are you all doing? I hope you are doing well. Now, for those who are new around here and maybe a little confused on what this is, at the beginning of each year, I like to do a little retrospective into the previous year and talk about the favorite pieces of media that I experienced in that year. Not from that year, just my favorite things that I experienced in that year. And the reason why there isn't one for 2023 and last year was because I was working on a lovely little Attack on Titan video that took all the way until March to release, and it would feel a little bit awkward in my opinion if I was talking about 2023 in the middle of 2024, so I figured this would be a double feature for both 2023 and 2024. So if you want to treat this as a recommendation video, feel free to do so. I would absolutely love that. However, if you just want to hear me ramble about random things that I really loved, also feel free to do that. I mean, you're an audience member. You get to sort of decide how you interact with this. I mean, I don't know. I just like doing this thing, you know. I don't know what I'm doing. All that said, however, here are the best of 2023 and 2024 in my opinion. Also, there isn't really any order on any of these things, like from like worst to best or best to worst. You'll probably be able to tell how much I like something depending on how I talk about it, but you know, they're all in random order from like how I like them and when I experience them. So like you get to guess, that's going to be your challenge. You get to guess when I experience them and how much I like them and how I rank them and all that jazz. Yeah. Have fun. Pluto is a show I heard a lot about when it was released, but not much about beforehand. Naoki Urasawa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, someone please correct me if I'm not, is somebody whose work I've admittedly not experienced yet, so watching Pluto's way of establishing its mystery and protagonist in the first 25 minutes before diverting for the remaining half hour of the episode on a robot who likes the piano felt off to me. This is an anime which structure baffled me for a long time. However, the further in I got into this mystery, the more I got to care for these characters and be infatuated with its world and premise, as well as understanding the nature of the themes going on and why that first episode's diversion to a completely different story was necessary. I don't think Pluto will be for everybody. However, if media that really makes you think about the morality of artificial life and just the morality of people in general is your kind of thing, then I'd absolutely recommend checking out Pluto. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is one of the most complete TV shows I have ever had the pleasure of watching. Never have I seen a show juggle effortlessly so many topics, so many characters, so many pieces of world building, and so many story beats without dropping a single one of them. This is an anime which is not only animated beautifully, not only has so many good moments throughout its first handful of episodes, and even more in the last act, but also knows when to slow down and let you soak into these characters and their ideals before using that information to prison stomp you, and I love the show for it. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is not only just a fantastic show all in all, but in my opinion is one of the defining examples of a show that wraps up every thread with a bow and bows out exactly when it needs to. And for that and so much more I will not mention, I love Fullmetal, and it does all of this in only 64 episodes. So if you like good world building and just a good story overall and you don't have the time to sit through over 1,000 episodes, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a great watch. Oh, and I'm recommending Brotherhood because I guess the original show was not faithful to the manga, so there is that. Just make sure of that if you plan on checking this one out. Okay, confession time. I love stories that deal with time. You can probably tell considering the kind of videos I make, and you can also tell because Tenet is one of my favorite movies ever. If you choose not to consider me a valid person to give out recommendations because of this information, I understand. Steins Gate is one of those shows that deals with time and more or less the distortion of it. However, a lot of what makes Steins Gate great on a first watch is only in the second half of it. The first 12 episodes in retrospect building up so much of what is to come, but when watching it for the first time seems slow and uninteresting at points. I've heard people say that the first half of Steins Gate is a drag, and I can absolutely understand that. I remember my first watch through the first half feeling a little dull. Fun and super cool, but ultimately a little dull. But look man, you just gotta trust me on this one. Not only does the second bunch of 12 episodes make the first 12 make sense and honestly heightens the experience of them, but also is just a straight up great bunch of episodes that remind you how smart the writers of this anime are. Seriously, there was a moment 20 episodes in that makes every single scene up to that point genius, and I love it, man. It's a slow burn, I'll be the first to raise my hand and admit that, but it is well worth the time I put into it, and I have a feeling that if you're anything like me, it will be well worth it for you as well. The Boys is one of the most out-of-pocket TV shows I think I have ever watched. The show it's wild, it has no filter, it has the cool factor dialed up much higher than it needed to be, and I love that about it, and it actually really is a tense watch. The Boys has many aspects that just make it a good show, but what I think is its most defining trait is just how out there it is. This is a mainstream television show that has a big enough cock to have a superhero shrink down to enter someone else's cock and blow them up. Now that I'm describing the show, it sounds a lot like porn. It's not porn, I swear to God. That is the average episode of The Boys, and also what I think makes it kinda awesome. It has no filter on really anything at all, and that makes it able to explore themes that no show would even dare mention, but also just have action and gore that, let's be honest here, I don't think many pieces of media have been allowed to show. There are highlights of each season that greatly overshadow others, however, even still, The Boys is great, and I'd recommend it if you have the stomach for it, and I'm slightly biased because Huey is just literally me. There are similarities between us, some I will share and some I will not. Okay, I'll list a couple of them. We both like Billy Joel, and I too have sulked inside of a whale's organs. Death Note is an anime you can watch even if you don't like anime, and that's something that's a rarity nowadays. In most anime, there are at least some portions or moments that feel at home in Japan, but are rather quite weird overseas. Examples including the worthless sexualization of female characters, the overexpressive, cartoonish-like humor, and the swapping of tones in an instant, and no hate, but these are all aspects that Death Note does not include, instead opting for a serious melodramatic mystery drama where the protagonist is the antagonist. And I'ma just put it bluntly, this show is awesome. I love the first 2 acts, and even the last 12 episodes are great in my opinion. This is an awesome crime show and one that I would absolutely recommend if you haven't tried it out yet. That's all I gotta say on this one. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is solid. Now, as of recording, I am only on part 3. I am sorry, however, my thoughts on JoJo as a series thus far is that it's pretty decent. Part 1 is okay enough, it's a solid watch, and Dio of course steals the show, and part 3 is really solid too, if at points a bit drawn out, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2 Battled Tendencies is as of right now my favorite JoJo part, not just because it's paced phenomenally, not just because it's fun and playful and yet knows how to convey emotion, but also because Joseph Joestar is an absolute legend of a protagonist, his whimsical and cocky nature making him so much fun to watch in action, as he's not really a hero. But for me, the fights, the scale of all of it, well, it was just a great watch overall, and it quickly cemented itself as my favorite JoJo part right now. Part 3 could do that for me, and the other parts could be phenomenals, but shut up man, I just want to sing my praises for now. Okay, I already made a video on Attack on Titan. In fact, it's that video, which is why this is a double year feature, but I'll say it briefly again if you don't have 1 hour to waste watching some teenager talk about how cool cartoon characters that scream are. Attack on Titan is one of the most meticulously planned out and phenomenally executed series I have ever seen in my entire life, and I think that if you choose not to watch this just because of the fact that it is an anime, that you are doing yourself a huge disservice. This is a show everybody can enjoy and one that has cemented itself among some of my favorite shows of all time. Alright, imagine this real quick. You are a 24-year-old office worker that has been trapped in the meaningless cycle of work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep for years. The workplace is toxic, verbal abuse is often, and you hate your life. Now, all of a sudden, a zombie apocalypse breaks out and you must find ways to survive. Do you A, find supplies immediately, B, run away and get eaten, or C, make a bucket list of everything you ever wanted to do and exclaim in excitement that you are free of your job and wasteful life? I am absolutely confident that you can guess what Akira Tendo does. Psalm 100 Bucket List of the Dead is a show about living your life to the fullest and the wonderful ways of freedom and tragedy can bring joy and how some people choose to exploit that freedom. It's one of the few animes that point out the overwork of most companies, even though the animation studio making it was doing the same thing, which is a little bit hypocritical, but you know what, I'll whatever. And man, I love this show because it really is just a guy doing what he's always wanted to do and following his passions no matter how silly or stupid or grandiose they are. And watching this dude just live his life freely and follow his passions alongside other survivors with a carefree nature, accompanied with fantastic animation and lovely character writing, just inspired me to go out and do the same, although there's no zombie apocalypse going on. And I hope by the time this video comes out, like 2 months after I said that there's still not a zombie apocalypse. And so for all of those reasons, it's hard not to recommend those out there interested to give Psalm 100 a shot. I knew absolutely nothing about Parasite the Maxim. Do you know how I found out about this series in the first place? Yes, I found this show for the first time, like every other Gen Z individual. I kinda expected something akin to Death Note, along the lines of a psychological anime that went into the characters' psyches. I love watching shows or playing games that deeply explore a character's headspace and how they view the world around them, and that's why I was incredibly interested to start Parasite the Maxim. Not 30 seconds go by in the first episode, and I was already proven wrong about my expectations. Parasite the Maxim is really freaking good for none of the reasons I expected. There is a dubstep soundtrack in it, the action is creative as it can be for reasons I will not get into, and there is a ton of gore. I love gore. And most importantly, this thing knows how to do character progression in a way unique to itself and match the philosophical nihilistic themes of the show, while also lining up with the show's central message and commentary on the humanity of humans. I absolutely don't want to say much about this series because if you don't know what it is about, then that's great and you should try and keep it that way before watching it. But what I will say is that Parasite the Maxim is a fantastic watch on all fronts, and that its opening is absolutely fire. Like, do you hear this crap, man? Call of the Night is an absolute vibe, and just one look at the show's way of depicting a nighttime aesthetic can prove that. The show following Ko and vampire Nazunu's adventures, as Ko wants to become a vampire but has to fall in love with one for that to happen. However, Ko himself doesn't really know what love is. It's a simple premise, and that's all it needs to be, because Call of the Night is basically people just chillin', vibing, and playing not Doki Doki Literature Club. But the main thing that gets me is the way it depicts the after dark hours, the sky bristling with color and dreamscape emotion woven into it, making every single scene that takes place outdoors an absolute visual treat. And the best part is that it's not even an action series. This is just chill romance, weird humor, and vampire shawties, and what more can a man ask for? If you're down for a chill show with a plot that is admittedly more than I just let on, but still absolutely delivers on the nighttime vibes, I would absolutely recommend Call of the Night. I remember when Arcane's first season was released. I remember hearing about how good it was, but I didn't take the plunge because of two reasons. The first being that League of Legends, understandable, but the second being I was scared I wouldn't know what's going on because of my lack of understanding of the world and lore of the League of Legends universe. However, once the second season, and as a whole the series wrapped up and I heard that it was a masterpiece, I decided to watch the show, and 2 seasons later, I have to agree with everyone. Arcane is the definition of a flawed magnum opus, a show that has some pretty disjointed pacing in season 2 and an arguably rushed ending, but even still is so absolutely magnificent in its writing, its character progression and musical score that it almost doesn't even matter that the show has its flaws. It's a rarity to see a show with so much care and passion behind it that it makes every other great TV show look like a leaf in the wind, and it's even rarer still that it works this well. You're going to inevitably see videos start popping up on this platform that Arcane was never good and that its second season is a mess. And while I do agree that season 2's pacing is the biggest con of the series, the high season 2 reaches along with the lows far exceed season 1 in my opinion. But the fact that this show exists, that a studio was willing to pay $250 million for this, and that the animators used every dime to make this show look as beautiful as possible. Seriously, this animation is some of the best stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. The fact that the story is written so well, the fact that the artists were given complete creative control in terms of both writing and animation is a miracle in today's world. Arcane's one of my new favorite shows, and if there's someone watching this video that has not seen the absolute wonder of this show, then I encourage you to watch this absolute piece of art. I am now an Arcane Glazer and an Echo Stan. Beck Mongolian Chop Squad is a show about a group of kids making a band. Yep, that's it. Alright, sounds good. Next TV show. In all honesty, Beck isn't the most deep show ever, nor is it well paced at all in my opinion, or even well thought out, but Beck is one of the few shows I have seen that perfectly depicts all of the emotions that go into making music, the frustration, the anger, and yet the passion and euphoria one gets when it all comes together. I'm a drummer, so of course I relate to this dude with no eyes, but every single moment where these kids are just playing together is a delight, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time watching these kids figure out their strengths and weaknesses as musicians and people, and all the while still overcoming those shortcomings. Dawn to Dawn is an absolute blast, and if you like anime, you probably already know this. I talked briefly about the manga in a previous video a long while back, and all of that still stands, but what I have to give credit for is Science Saru Studios' incredible adaptation. The anime moving effortlessly and combined with the JoJo-esque color style has an incredibly unique presentation. And that's not even taking into account how much emotional depth they added into the already depressing scenes of the manga. Seriously, why was episode 7 so beautiful? I'm crying now, dude. I was already close close to the manga. Why did you write this, man? This was a fantastic adaptation, and I cannot wait to see more of this show. Kaiju number 8 is a fun, simple shonen series with the sole exception that the protagonist is past his prime. Unlike other shonens, Kaiju number 8 follows Kafka Hibeno, a 30-year-old man who, after enlisting in the Kaiju Defense Police, gets infected by a kaiju himself, gaining the ability to transform into one. Synopsis over, I'ma be real, the show isn't gonna blow your mind, nor is it the most magnificent anime to ever exist. However, it is a fun time with splendid fight scenes, and all the while explores the fear of getting older and not being capable on the scale of younger individuals. Give this one a go, it's a solid time, and I'm very excited to see how they adapt the absolute scale the manga gets. Alright, I'm not even gonna halfway lie to you. Kaguya-Sama Love is War is cute and adorable and hysterical, and I am a romantic little man that just wants to invest my time into watching people have what I wish I could! Kaguya-Sama is a show where two people in the honor society try to convince the other person to confess through manipulative tactics and all, so that the one of them can keep their honor. What a silly premise. I hope it doesn't emotionally destroy me. This Shigami never deserved that, man. You're the GOAT for real. I love Kaguya-Sama. It's all the while cute and wholesome and funny, and has everything that makes a down bad maidenless man fall in love with this show, but also just says a lot about the state of what love means and the things we do to ourselves for it. However, what also surprised me was just how much passion is put into this thing. Every gag is animated better than it has any need to be, and they even go so far to make custom endings for certain episodes, such as Season 3, Episode 5, in which the episode revolves around rapping, and the entire ending is swapped to be a hip-hop rap with the most fluid animation ever, and again, they do not need to do it, yet they do it anyways. Imagine the amount of time it took to convince the studio to let them do this and the hundreds of man-hours it would take to animate it. That is dedication, and it's decisions like that, which is why recommending Kaguya-Sama is so easy. Demon Slayer is a series I have mixed feelings on, in all honesty. I like moments in season 1, but other than that, nothing really stuck out to me. I like Yonosuke, I like the animation, but the story and its characters felt so typical of a shonen, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There is a reason why Demon Slayer got popular due to that first season, however for me, it just felt generic. Then I watched the Mugen Train movie, and I thought it was pretty good. Anime Inception is not something I thought I needed, but the execution was pretty flawless, and the movie got me to care quite a bit about the characters for the first time, and alongside the pros of the first season, it all came together as an overall great movie in my opinion, and it got me a little bit optimistic that maybe I would end up liking this show. The Entertainment District arc, also known as Demon Slayer Season 2, is where I fell in love. Not only does it encapsulate all the things I liked about the two previous projects, but it freaking expands on it. The highs are so much higher, the characters introduced are written wonderfully, and on top of that, the last half of this season is so beautifully animated, I nearly had a stroke watching it. Like seriously, look at how beautiful this looks. This is movie quality level animation, and combined with the narrative of the arc being actually beautiful and touching, a story about treasuring the ones in your life and recognizing that spending time with them is the most important thing one can do. The Entertainment District arc is, for me, Demon Slayer's peak and contains some of my favorite animated scenes ever. The last time I discussed Jujutsu Kaisen was in the last time I did this, back in 2022, and there I mentioned how I thoroughly enjoyed Jujutsu Kaisen, and that still holds true. While I might have glazed it too much due to it being my first shonen series, I still had a blast watching the action and narrative unfold and play out. Season 2 is actually as good as I'ma say it is, and I'm not freaking glazing, and to prove my point, I'ma use copyrighted music. Jujutsu Kaisen second season is the anime equivalent of murder music. I absolutely love Vinland Saga, and it's probably for the same reasons everyone else loves this show. It's not because of its gorgeously animated fights or its world rich with detail or even the overarching national scale narrative, but because of how these characters change over time and how specifically the protagonist Thorfinn changes. His journey from innocent child to cold, emotionless and vengeful assassin to a man whose pacifist ideals change him into a kinder person, being some of the most beautiful character progression I've ever seen. That is kind of a spoiler, but chances are you have seen so many edits about this show, so it's you know, okay, you know what, deal with it. However, what I haven't seen many people discuss is how this progression happens to everybody. Every character or their philosophy on the world around them changes in some way, some for the betterment of those around them, and others for not. That and the message of simply being a kinder person, of having no enemies, really struck a chord with me, and I can't thank Vinland Saga enough for showing me that. I don't think you need to hear me, out of all people, tell you why Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is so good, because all the other Guardians of the Galaxy movies are also so good. I won't stay here long because everything that can be said has been said, but James Gunn has proved once more that he is incredible at creating a cast of characters that we care about, and here has proved that he can wrap up their story just as well, and I'm very happy to see that he put his all into his assumed last MCU project when several other creators of other films didn't. I cannot believe a raccoon nearly made me cry. Blade Runner 2049 is fascinating, a sequel to an older 80s film that in my opinion far surpasses it. Blade Runner 2049 not only perfectly encapsulates the feel of an inevitable futuristic dystopia that we are crashing into, colorful with lights and ads but soulless and bleak with hopes of human interaction being crushed into the ground and discouraged, but also depicts the kind of people that live in this reality. This is often known as the Literally Me movie due to Ryan Gosling being a sad protagonist, but I think the movie uses his character, his hopes of purpose and belonging against us as an audience, and him as a character, telling a story of creating meaning through our own lives rather than just being born with it. Now, in most movies where beings outside of our world come to Earth, they are horror films, action films, thriller films. However, Arrival, instead of being an action-packed horror film, is a movie with communication at its forefront, as the story follows two scientists' efforts to establish a way of communication between the aliens that have landed all throughout the Earth, creating a new language through symbols to talk with them. I understand that the premise of this movie sounds kinda bare and maybe even a little uninteresting. The movie starts off with a gut punch immediately before moving on several years later, in which none of the emotion depicted earlier is present. In fact, there almost doesn't seem to be an emotional core at all. However, the moment I accepted this movie's role of high concept sci-fi rather than making me feel things, the movie goes right back to what made that first scene so powerful and continues that emotional resonance throughout the remaining runtime. Also, this movie uses a concept I established earlier that I love, and while I won't say it here because it's a major spoiler, I freaking loved how this movie handled it. Oppenheimer is a movie by Christopher Nolan, and due to it being directed by him, it's almost guaranteed to end up on this list. Oppenheimer is fascinating. It's a historical drama that is directed and acted in a way that makes things feel like they are constantly moving, the story jumping around from the creation of the atomic bomb and the inevitable consequences that came with its creation. And on top of the incredible performances by each of the cast members, it makes it hard to not recommend Oppenheimer, especially if you like historical dramas. On the other hand, Barbie is an absolute blast. This is a movie that not only is funny, colorful, pleases bisexual people, and has Ryan Gosling, but is also a very existential movie that is very aware about the hard realities that people go through and forces Barbie to understand those complex human emotions. I really like this movie, and even on top of that message, the movie has a beach-off fight scene, Ryan Gosling being, to be quite frank, literally me, and is just a blast overall. The Truman Show is the funniest horror movie I have ever seen, and yes, this movie looks like a fun PG movie about a man starring in a TV show without his knowledge in which he entertains millions all over the world, but this premise is something that the writers are fully aware about how twisted it is, and while they do make this movie funny and adventurous, they also make it kinda terrifying, the realization that one's entire life could be a lie being a frightening reality that Truman has to face. And watching this man realize the world around him to be a lie is all the while funny, but also kinda heart-wrenching. The kind of horror I felt while watching this thing was pretty unique, and for that I gotta add this on here. On the other hand, Scott Pilgrim is an absolute blast, and if you're around or under the age of 28, you are probably well aware of that. This is one of those movies that are just an awesome time while watching. A movie with an all-star cast that are in this movie playing the dumbest characters ever, and where the vegan police stop a superpowered brawl to state, "It's milk and eggs, bitch." And then they proceed to take away someone's psychic powers. Baller movie. John Wick. All of them. I like watching Keanu Reeves be cool, okay? Alright, so I don't think it's a secret that John Wick is an absolute masterclass of action, and I don't think I'd get too much hate by saying 3 is my favorite of the 4, and I guarantee I won't get any hate by saying the last hour of the 4th film is cinema at its finest. I love all of these movies for ultimately the same reason. A man gets beat up and thrown around and yet continues to get back up and beat the crap out of his aggressors, and that's awesome, and combined with an actually really touching overarching story, John Wick is a movie series that I can turn on any day of the week and have an absolute blast with. Alien Romulus was the first Alien movie I ever watched, and while I have now seen the other Alien movies, this and of course the first one remain my favorites. However, Romulus needs its praises sung because this is a movie that constantly makes worse and worse situations for characters to persevere through, and that escalating tension just left me on the edge of my seat for 2 whole hours waiting and hoping that everyone would make it out alive and okay. And combined with the absolutely incredible visual effects and oppressive atmosphere, the feeling of truly being helpless hanging over the entire runtime, Alien Romulus was a great watch and something that's last act helped me prepare for that time my friend made me watch The Substance. No, it is not on this list. I do like it, but damn, what were those last 30 minutes? Now that I'm recording this, I have no idea why I structured this portion like this. Anyways, Weird the Al Yankovic Story is a biographical film that focuses on Weird's Al upbringing and his jump into the music scene. It parodies a lot of cliches in these kind of movies while telling the story of how Weird Al went into the music industry, and for the first 45 minutes or so, it's mostly faithful. There's a lot of humor in it, and it does play on the fact that, yeah, this is a movie about a man's jump into the music industry. However, there's still a lot of fun stuff here happening to keep you engaged. And then, after that 45-minute mark, to say the least, there is a scene where Al goes on an LSD trip for a minute or so, and I'm pretty sure that that trip never stops because every single moment and event that happens afterwards is absolute insanity, being some of the most unbelievable crap ever to the most hysterical crap ever. And so, if movies that are kind of just insane is your type of time, then I absolutely recommend giving the Al Yankovic movie a try. Memento, like almost every single film by Christopher Nolan, is a puzzle box. However, unlike some of his films, is one you can properly digest. The movie structure cycles between 2 different times in the narrative, one going forward in time from the beginning, and one going through the narrative backwards from the ending, all culminating in an incredible ending of a series of events that goes down. Memento is a pretty messed up movie, but it is also one that is an absolutely fascinating depiction of amnesia and the mental blocks it can put on us to aid our run from reality. Dune Part 2 is monumental. If you recall from a couple years back, you'll remember that I watched Dune without any expectation and without the knowledge of it being a very influential sci-fi book. However, after watching it, came to really appreciate its scale and sense of world building that made every single piece of the world feel tangible and real. However, in Dune Part 2, I find that it is more focused on character building rather than re-establishing the world once more, each character having their own motivations and goals and paths that ultimately lead to the rise into heroism or their decisions that fall to absolute chaos. And what's awesome is that you never know until the credits roll whose fate is going to be what. And combined with the incredible score and visuals alongside the magnificent acting by everyone involved, Dune Part 2 is a monumental achievement in the creation of a universe and simultaneously wraps up a story while also laying the groundwork for a new one. And they better make Dune Messiah as well, because I'm not reading that Shakespearean sound and little freaking book. One of my favorite animated movies ever is a small little film you might know as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, an incredible achievement in hyper-stylized animation and inspiring several animated movies to follow in its footsteps, but also creating with it a story that dissects the meaning of what being Spider-Man ultimately is. So when I heard a sequel Across the Spider-Verse was greenlit, I was excited but intentionally stayed away from every trailer preview and all of it, so when I eventually got the chance to see it, I was kind of blown away. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is just as good as that initial movie, managing to match the quality of the original movie in both writing and even exceeding it in animation, while also managing to create a unique story of the cruel inevitability of reality and how little we believe we can control, but also how much we ultimately can. There are not enough words in the English dictionary to describe my admiration towards this movie, and my only suggestion would have to be to just watch this thing yourself. Watch this movie and just support it any way you can. Support these animators, support the writers. Maybe don't support the managers, because maybe if you don't support them, maybe the animators will actually have some time to make the movie. But all in all, incredible movie. I remember reading Look Back for the first time and thinking of it as good, but not in all honesty, groundbreaking for me. Compared to his other works, Look Back is the most grounded of them, focusing on two students trying to make it big as mangakas, and as I don't have any experience in drawing or writing stories, it just came off as a thing that is great, but not for me. It wasn't until the movie adapting the one-shot was announced to be releasing in 2024 that I actually bought the physical volume and reread it, and there I actually understood and loved Look Back a lot more. To me, Look Back is the story of the camaraderie and memories behind any piece of art, the relationships formed and moments shared, while also about the endless drive and pursuit of creativity and how it can destroy us. And I'm happy to say that the movie adaptation of the one-shot is even better than the source material. Adaptations for Fujimoto's works are 2 for 2 now, and that's awesome. Look Back being just absolutely beautifully animated, conveying both emotions that I stated previously, as well as just being incredibly well directed. This movie outdoes the source material in my eyes, and adds details that make it a more heart-wrenching story than it already was. Seriously, Look Back is a killer on the heartstrings, but also a movie that I am glad to see released in this world. It also gives me hope that they release a Goodbye Eri movie. Please, please, I'm begging you, adapt a Goodbye Eri movie and my life is yours. Prisoners is a miserable time. This movie isn't funny, it's not entertaining. In fact, it feels like you're traversing hell, and that is clearly the intention of the film and the right way to go about this, considering that the premise of the movie is about looking for two kidnapped children, the father of one of the children losing his sense of morality while the detective assigned to the case goes through problem after problem, in which each discovery only leads to more questions and makes the case even messier. Our two protagonists each go through hell. For Detective Loki, it's a physical one, going through pain and error to find these two children, but for the father Keller, it's an interpersonal one, feeling a complete split in his moral code in every single action and decision he makes. Both of them are going through their own hellscapes trying to solve an impossible puzzle. I don't think I moved for the entire runtime. It's that good. Alright, so let's see here. Am I missing anything? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh crap, I forgot about Fight Club. That is not an actual joke. I completely forgot to write that in here, so just pretend that I totally didn't, because this movie rocks hard. Well, it's easy to see this movie as the simple Sigma Alpha Male grind set movie. No, those words will never come out of my mouth again, and if anybody brings up this moment I just did, I might just stop uploading. I think Fight Club is a movie much more than that, exploring the absolute depravity we can throw ourselves into for the sake of finding purpose in the absolute chaos that can ensue by our own hands by doing that. There's a reason other people that are older than 12 like this movie, and it's because it shows that the people who have absolutely nothing feel the most free, even if that freedom is at the cost of others. Genius movie. I like this one a lot. Okay, so just for this one, I don't think I can talk about the Sonic movie 3 without saying something about spoilers, so if you haven't watched the movie yet, skip here and we'll continue on to the next section. Just for this one. Just for this is the only time I'm gonna do this. Alright, you still here? Okay. It's hard to remember when I fell in love with this character, however, I do remember that ever since I was 4 years old, I remember wishing they would make a true, honest-to-God theatrical Sonic the Hedgehog movie. The Sonic OVA is great, and the fan projects out there held me over, but it wasn't until the announcement of an actual Sonic movie until I could see that dream being a reality. All the design drama aside, I got to see these movies slowly progress into what I wished for all those years ago. The first movie is a family road trip movie with Sonic in it. The second film is a Sonic movie with family elements in it, but Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is that honest-to-God Sonic movie I wished to see 14 years ago. Seeing Shadow on screen with one of the best depictions of the character throughout the series, seeing the characters fully come to life through expressive CGI, seeing Super Sonic and Super Shadow have the most Dragon Ball Z fight, which is a first for the franchise by the way, before teaming up to stop the Eclipse Cannon while Live and Learn by Crush 40 plays in the background, all of this and even more is what made me realize that, my God, my wish came true. This is that movie I envisioned all those years ago. This movie is Sonic Adventure 2, adapted for the big screen and condensed in a way that feels proper, and even aside the Sonic hype, manages to tell a compelling story about how the pain of loss changes us and how that pain never fades, but the memories we spent with those people are the ones that have us push forward nevertheless. It's crazy to me that we live in a timeline where a Sonic movie can contend with a live-action Disney remake, and even crazier, that people on a worldwide scale are enjoying it. This is a dream come true for me, and I hope that Jeff Fowler continues to put in the incredible work in future movies that he did in this one. Okay, for the people who just came back, Sonic 3 is a dream come true, and it's really good. Shadow is beautiful, Jeff Fowler is video game adaptation Jesus. Next transition, please. Out of curiosity, I played through the Portal games within the span of around a week, and I really enjoyed my time with them. Portal 1 is a simple puzzle game with awesome game mechanics and incredibly creative puzzles that made me think, but also not get so frustrated I just look up the answer, and alongside the straightforward but interesting way the story progresses, I found Portal 1 to be a great use of 3-ish hours, and I was expecting something similar until I realized that Portal 2 is 3 times the length of the original, has more characters, more background lore to get invested in, and so much more humor that genuinely made me laugh pretty hard while still reinventing the wheel of the puzzles that the first game established. I heavily enjoyed my time with both Portal games, and while I can absolutely say with certainty that Portal 2 is the superior game, I had so much fun with the first one that I don't even care at this point. The Portal games are awesome, give them a try. Have you ever wanted a game that makes you feel like you're the coolest person in the room? Have you ever wanted a game to make you feel invincible? Have you ever wanted to massacre demons but do it so stylishly that it makes you look pimped as hell? I got you, bro. I have no experience with Devil May Cry. That is currently changing though. I actually started the first game while making this video. It's pretty good. However, Devil May Cry 5 was fire. I realized very quickly when Nero started shooting bullets in slow motion for the game's opening credits that I was gonna love this game, and love I did. I really enjoyed the characters that the story followed. I love the set pieces of every single piece of action, and the game looks beautiful, but you're not here for the graphics or the story. You're here to kill demons in the coolest way possible, and this is what got me to fall in love with this game. Nero has interchangeable hands that can wreak havoc to those around him. V uses magic birds and animals to maul his opponents to death. Dante not only has a variety of guns, but obtains a dirt bike which he can split in half to slam into demons, and that's not all concept. All of these weapons have so many combinations attached to them, the combat being so complex to where at the worst, you feel like you're an executioner, but at best, that you feel like you are a god of destruction, wiping out every single creature in your path. And I would also like to say that I had absolutely no idea what was going on at all in this game, and that's my fault, by the way, no one else's. However, this game has Dante dancing Michael Jackson style when he gets a magic hat. It doesn't get much better than this. Silent Hill 3 is horrifying, which is similar to what I said about Silent Hill 2. However, the horror of 2 comes from the fear that something is there that you cannot see, that something beyond your comprehension will come out and ruin you. But there never is, making me stay on edge for my entire 8-hour experience going through the second game. Silent Hill 3, on the other hand, threatens you with something that is there that you cannot see, but delivers on that promise. Silent Hill 3 is very direct when it comes to its horror and story, you being confronted by abominations outside of your comprehension and being forced to survive every encounter with them. This game's imagery and enemy design is so unnerving, its puzzles so unwelcoming, and its environments no longer oppressive but just hellish. There's a reason why the hospital section in Silent Hill 3 is regarded as one of the most terrifying sections in Silent Hill. Even the story is wildly different, focusing on the cult of Silent Hill and their barbaric rituals and sacrifices, Heather being forced to grapple with forces outside of her understanding. Heather as well is just one of my favorite horror game protagonists simply because she is understandably scared, but also sick of everything that is happening to her. Her drive for revenge having her push through hellish scenario after scenario to achieve her goals. Silent Hill 3 was a horrifying time, and even as someone who has not played the first game of the series, was a time I do not regret. Nier Automata is a game that made me think a lot. A story about Yorha AI androids fighting robots that have conquered the earth on the remaining humans' behalf, but yet when the credits rolled properly, I should clarify that, made me think a lot about how this game treated that premise. This game asks many uncomfortable questions and looks to me for an answer. What is the meaning of living? Is there meaning in dying? What is the point of life if everything is just a perpetual cycle of the same lives lived over and over again? What does it mean to be human? Nier Automata explores these concepts in very interesting ways that I haven't quite seen a game do yet or since, and combined with the absolutely gorgeous music and phenomenal English voice acting, makes this narrative and its themes hit hard, plus the added aspects of an excellent sense of scale and some absolutely lovely character progression. Nier Automata made me a fan of Yoko Taro's way of writing and very curious to explore his other projects. Zelda Breath of the Wild is a game I sincerely love, a game about exploration and discovery, yet also managing to be an absolute blast of a game with some awesome characters scattered throughout. So when I heard of a sequel titled Tears of the Kingdom, yeah, I was hyped, and after playing it, there's a good reason for that. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a game about discovery, just like its original counterpart. The previously traversed land altered to show age, as well as the new Sky Islands and the not even advertised underground landscape, but also just allows for you to decide how to explore it. Tears of the Kingdom creating a new crafting system to allow you to make air bikes, real bikes, cars, torture chambers, and so much more. But even without those new aspects, the main campaign just has so many high points and lovable moments that make me incredibly grateful that this thing exists, but also you can just ignore them. Like, once I was done with the Sky Island tutorial, I spent like my next 30 hours just messing around and exploring what I could with the objectives off, and honestly man, I had an absolute blast doing that. Tears of the Kingdom is a fantastic game, and while this is most likely the end of Zelda's open world style games, they absolutely left it on a high note. Signalis is a special game, and I don't just say that due to my previous praises about its art style, even though it is beautiful. However, besides that, Signalis feels like it was inspired by so many things. It has the vibes of a Silent Hill game in an Alien movie, it has the combat of a Resident Evil title, and even has a reference to Evangelion. However, even with all of these very clear inspirations, Signalis finds its own identity through itself, telling a story about the tragic fall into chaos that inevitably comes, the cycles that come with it, and the fear of dying because of the fear of nothing. Because at the end of the day, what is nothing? What does it mean? What does it mean to simply not exist anymore? Signalis is a terrifying look at the bleakest questions one can ask, and because of those questions, its abstract way of storytelling, and its wonderfully crafted puzzles and gunplay, Signalis feels like a true retro survival horror, and in my opinion is one that you should absolutely give a shot, even if you're not a survival horror junkie. Okay, to be clear, I already made a video on AI the Somnium Files that you can check out now. In fact, I'm going to encourage you to check it out now because it kind of flopped, and I am a strategic bastard that knows how to manipulate you. I know you are curious about what I think of this game, but guess what? You're gonna have to spend an extra 15 minutes giving me your precious watch time to find out. Nah, I'm messing, I'll tell you. AI the Somnium Files is one of the most creative, lovable, and hysterical little games I've ever played. Its characters littered throughout the story, making the incredibly diverse parts of the narrative click in such a fashion in which it makes complete sense, and even through all of the insanity, still is such a vibe. For my first visual novel game, I really enjoyed this one. Shadow Generations is the best Sonic game that has come out since Sonic Mania, simultaneously being just as good as Sonic Generations, if not, in my opinion, a little better in some areas. Shadow Generations is boost gameplay at its finest, the levels having multiple pathways leading to new ways of traversal, and the mechanics working wonderfully, Shadow's chaos control ability allowing him to stop time, giving not only several opportunities for speedrunning, but also allowing for the level design to shine even brighter, the zones being designed around this ability and encouraged throughout. And combined with Shadow just straight up aura farming, something that Sonic Frontiers brought back and perfected. I cannot believe I brought up Gen Z slang not once but twice in this video. Please never bring this fact up once again. This video is not canon to the not normal universe. Shadow Generations levels are so exciting to play through, the levels distorting around you while playing, or straight up just allowing Shadow the chance to stop time, kick the crap out of a missile, and then kick it to another part of the stage. I've had a blast coming back to Shadow Generations levels after all of this time, and I have a feeling that I'm still going to be coming back to this game even years later, just like I did with Sonic Unleashed and Generations. Outer Wilds is a game that frustrated me endlessly. The controls of the spaceship were complicated and didn't feel fair. The complications of the mechanics of the planets that I visited were bizarre and hostile to the point of where simple movement around them often resulted in me being slammed around, crushed, or sent to the emptiness of space in which I would die. And every time I thought I was getting somewhere or learning something new, the sun would explode, ending the 22-minute loop, resulting in me waking up right where I started, the only difference being the knowledge I obtained from the last voyage into space. All of these things frustrated me to no end. Like, come on, man, this is not difficult. This should not be difficult to control where my ship goes and where I go. It should not be this much of a problem. And then I kind of realized that all those frustrations were intentional. The controls of the spaceship were complicated because I was maneuvering around a giant scientific device across the galaxy. Of course, it wasn't going to be simple. The mechanics of the planets I visited were hostile and bizarre because just like our planet Earth, they have different properties and complications that make them unique. The sun exploding wasn't to halt my progress and piss me off, it was simply an inevitability of this dying universe. Once I realized that Outer Wilds is less of a video game and more a hostile exploration to find out the key to stopping the end, that's when it became special. It made every discovery I got to see, every piece of history I got to learn, every sight I got to witness, every realization of the planet's mechanics, every takeoff from my home planet out into the stars, worth it all. Outer Wilds is a beautiful game, and while I would say it is indeed a frustrating experience, it's part of it. Souls games wouldn't be what they are without the grueling challenge, and Outer Wilds is no different. It establishes its identity through its challenge. Yeah, Outer Wilds is good. I'm not even going to halfway lie to you. I was worried about the Silent Hill 2 remake. And yes, it was because it was developed by Bloober Team, a studio known for creating subpar horror games, and the fact that Konami still existed, but also because Silent Hill 2 Remake was this series' second chance. I have grown to love the Silent Hill games, even though I have yet to play 1 and 4, although I do plan on it. However, if this remake wasn't good, not only would Konami not hesitate to finally kill Silent Hill with a surefire bullet to the skull, but people would remember Silent Hill 2 as a rushed and subpar horror game rather than the survival horror staple it originally was. Silent Hill 2 Remake had a lot on its hands to introduce new people to the series and to welcome back players of the original like myself, and while we have seen several successful remakes be made that honor the original's legacy and make something of an identity for itself to introduce new players, Silent Hill 2 had the most amount of broken glass surrounding it to step on. Whether it be the surrealistic vibes that formed Silent Hill, the very carefully made and sensitive narrative that people still talk about over 20 years later, or the characters that even if messed with slightly could fall apart in one's hands, Silent Hill 2 is a game that needed a remake due to how inaccessible the original was, but also felt impossible to do correctly. I say all of this to state that the Silent Hill 2 remake should have been a horrible misfire, and yet it wasn't. Not only does the Silent Hill 2 remake greatly expand this town, its puzzles, and even revamp its combat while still keeping that vulnerable feeling from the original, but it recreates every single character, every single moment, every single eye movement, and not only honored the original's vision, but straight up added to it. The remake using the technology all these years later to add complexity to every single character in a way that the original simply couldn't. I don't think this remake is going to simply replace the original, nor do I think the original is going to outshine this remake, but what I will say is that no matter who you are, the Silent Hill 2 remake is not only one of the best remakes that have been made, but also one of the best survival horror titles that have been made. Personally, Silent Hill 2 remake is a new game on the 10 out of 10 list, even outshining the original in many areas for me, and so for that, I gotta give Bloober Team some incredible thanks. Thank you guys for truly caring about this project and essentially reviving the Silent Hill series. You guys freaking rock. Over the course of 2023 and 2024, I played through Persona 5 Royal and began Persona 3 Reload, and as my first Persona experiences, I gotta say I love both of these titles. I haven't fully finished Persona 3 yet, so bear that in mind that several of my compliments are going to Persona 5 Royal specifically, but not only are these the most aesthetically pleasing JRPGs ever, but also are just some of the most grandiose of them as well. It's not a secret that Persona titles are the longest JRPGs, and that's true. Persona 5 Royal's full game clocking in at around 120 hours till the credits roll. However, while that length does amount for some serious pacing problems throughout, it also allows these characters to truly flourish in these relationships to build, not just with one another, but also with you, the player. The game's providing a flexible schedule for you to decide how to approach things, giving you the option to either go into the metaverse and do RPG stuff, or just hang with a friend or a lover for the evening, or you can say screw it and just play pool and listen to jazz. And that flexibility makes the Persona titles, in my opinion. The fact that I can progress through these games at my own pace is a game changer to me, allowing me to fully immerse myself into this world and the characters that inhabit it. And alongside the style of both of these games and the incredible storytelling at play throughout the game, managing to land even the most ludicrous of plot twists, It's hard to not recommend the Persona titles, or at least Persona 5 Royal and most of Persona 3 Reload. This is an awkward stage. I'm mostly done with Persona 3, so most of what I am saying I am confident will be applicable to 3, but I don't know just yet. But so far, it's still awesome, so give one of them a shot and be prepared to invest a lot of time into them. Before Your Eyes is one of the saddest games I've ever played, a journey in the afterlife in which you witness the memories of Benjamin Brin, a man who has passed on. However, the catch is that the game uses your webcam to focus on your eyes, which means every time you blink, you skip forward in time, whether it be 5 seconds or 5 years. And man, it's kind of hard to describe why I love this game so much without spoiling everything throughout its 2-hour runtime, but this game's sole purpose is to ask, what does it mean to live a full life? And the game explores this in a way that genuinely ripped my heart out. But in between the moments of sadness, there are memories of childlike innocence and harsh realities, of creative endeavors and failed tasks, of difficult relationships and ones that persevere evermore. This game made me make noises I am not proud of making, and I cannot thank it enough. 2 things before I start with the thank yous. Yes, I do have like a pubic hair looking beard on my face right now. Ignore it. I'm gonna lie to you and say I lost a bet. That's not the case, but I want everybody to just not acknowledge this period. And yes, you can see a little bit where I live right now. I don't want anyone to dox me. Nobody dox me. Please, I'm begging you, okay? I'm trusting you all. All that aside, however, I want to say thank you first and foremost because you guys are freaking awesome. The channel doubled in size since the last time I did this around 2 years ago. I think it was at 400 subscribers, and then now it's at 850 as of recording this. And I just want to say thank you guys. You guys freaking rock. One of my favorite things after a video is up and out there is to wait a day or two, or maybe a couple hours depending on how, like, I don't know, finicky I am, and just check the comments and see what people have to say, whether it be contributing to the conversation, giving me constructive criticism on how to improve, which I appreciate. If you have constructive criticism, please give it to me. I absolutely love reading that and taking it in. It helps me improve as a creator. Or just like people saying that they really like the video and like giving me a thumbs up. I deeply appreciate all you guys' comments, and it helps me keep going as a creator, seeing that, like, yeah, people actually watch this stuff. And even like if the comments were all turned out, the fact that 850 people decided to click a red button to keep updated with what I was creating because they liked my stuff enough, that is freaking mind-blowing to me. And I understand that most people would call me like a smaller creator due to the fact that like there are people with millions and millions of subscribers on this platform, but man, 850 is still a mind-blowing number to me, dude. But also just like thank you guys so much for just being willing to roll with whatever I have to make, whether that be some dumb video on an anime or a video about like an aesthetic of social media videos. Like, you guys watch that crap and like still like enjoy it, and I'm incredibly thankful that you guys are having a good time watching with what I am creating, especially in 2024 because I only made like 3 videos that year. I'm pretty happy with pretty much every single video I released since I made that best of 2022. I think I like all of them to a certain degree. I think I poured like a good part of my soul out, and I'm not just saying that due to the reception. The one exception being that Silent Hill 2 video. That was absolute trash. I'm sorry. I only had like 2 weeks before Halloween and I rushed it. I apologize about that one. I'm gonna leave it up for now, but like, you know, it's not good. I'm gonna be weird. However, aside from that Silent Hill 2 video, I'm pretty happy with how the videos turned out throughout these past 2 years. And I do apologize for the lack of videos of 2024, and the reason being, I explained somewhat at the end of the PS1 effect, at least for that video, you know, external life circumstances, but also I just want to learn how to edit halfway decent and learn how to create a scene of some sort, if that makes any sense. However, for the Attack on Titan video, I really wanted to learn how to write better and sort of create a cohesive story where I'm slowly building to the message that I sort of like hammer in at the end of the video. I really wanted to like try and get better at that, and that's part of why those videos like took forever. However, even then, you guys watch them and seem to enjoy them, and I'm incredibly happy that you guys had a good time with them. In terms of the future, I do have 2 video ideas brewing, one that I'm currently writing as of recording this, and I'm really excited to make that video. I think it might turn out halfway decent if I do it well. And then I have a second one that is planned that I am also excited to write, but it's still just established and finding. And I hope I am able to get a couple more videos out as well before the 6-month period. And the reason for that is that this year I'm actually graduating high school and becoming a legal adult. I'm already a legal adult. That's dumb. I'm 18 now. I want to make that clear. But I am graduating high school, and so my options are either get a full-time job or go to college. And I'm probably gonna go with the latter. However, I'm not sure how making videos will go in college due to the fact that I have 3 roommates and, you know, college life. You know, I'm not exactly sure. I do intend to keep making videos, but I'm not exactly sure how smooth that will go. Really, I can only give like a future sense for like the near future, so I apologize for that. All that said, however, how are you guys doing? I hope you're all doing well. Let me know what games you've been playing, what shows you've been watching, what movies you've been seeing in theaters, and if you watched Mufasa over the Sonic movie, and if so, please include your house address in the comment section so that I can show up at your doorstep and indoctrinate you with Sonic the Hedgehog. All that said, however, thank you so much for watching my videos. It means the world to me. Take care of others, and I will see you next time.